What if stepping into discomfort isn't something to fear, but the very path to becoming the leader you're meant to be? Welcome to the PhD with Women in IT Hack the Future. My name is Jamil Navarroza, and today's PhD Positivity Hack delivered will be by our guest, Carla Pantano. Our topic for today is the growth mindset playbook from discomfort to digital transformation. Episode 198 starts here. Let me remind you this is a grassroots community that focuses on women in IT, an inclusive forum of women in technology, startups, and female leaders who are supported by men as well. And I bring heart to that hassle because empathy is my mojo, and empathy is critical empathy is my mojo, and empathy is critical in growth mindset. Before we start our discussion, I just want to take a moment uh, to shine a spotlight on some incredible achievements from our community. Hooray to Lisa Lane on joining the award-winning Halzac's Elevate Women in Tech Leadership Mentorship Program as mentor for Cohort 5. Your dedication to empowering women in technology shines through everything you do. And this new chapter is a powerful testament to your leadership, passion, and commitment to lifting others as you rise. Here's to representation, growth, and elevating women everywhere. Congratulations to Drinda Woods. I hope I read that right, on your nomination for the Woman of Stature Awards South Africa 2026 in the Women in Education and Training category. This is truly a remarkable achievement, and we're thrilled to celebrate this milestone with you. Your nomination is not only a recognition of your accomplishments, but also a testament to the meaningful and lasting impact you continue to make in the field of education. Wishing you continued success as you shine, lead, and inspire, and we're all cheering on you. Now, let's go back to our topic, the growth mindset playbook from discomfort to digital transformation. In this episode of Positivity Hack Delivered, we'll have a conversation with Carla T. Pantano, Senior Director of IT Strategic Initiatives and Operations at DuPont Specialty Products, whose more than 20 years of experience have shaped her into a visionary leader driving digital transformation and global impact. Carla will share how embracing discomfort, strategic networking, and taking on stretch assignments can redefine your professional growth. From empowering internal connectors to owning your development, Carla's journey is proof that real growth begins at the edge of your comfort zone. Whether you're aiming to elevate your career, strengthen your leadership presence, or simply find the courage to take that next leap, this conversation will inspire you to grow with intention and lead with authenticity. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Carla.
Thank you, Jamil. Thank you so much for that intro. I really appreciate it. And
And
greetings,
thank you so much
everyone.
for joining us. And to start, where in the world are you today?
So I am in the United States, specifically Wilmington, Delaware.
Oh, that's nice. And um, Carla, how did you first get into the world of IT and strategic operations? Can you walk us through your path to this leadership role?
Oh, sure. I started my career originally as a software developer, and I quickly recognized that writing code was kind of overtaking my entire life. I would even have nightmares about my code. So I quickly recognized that I'm not 100% sure that software development is really the space for me. But I really started to take a lot of interest in what I would say is more back office IT. So this was more about server infrastructure and even data center operations. And I had an opportunity to change roles and really engulf myself in that space. And so that is really how I got that opportunity to kind of make that change from software developer to more on the infrastructure side.
What was the moment you realized you wanted to be a visionary leader focused on driving transformation?
Uh, I have to say that while I've had a tremendous leadership and people that were visionary and inspiring throughout my career, I also recognize that there were times where I thought, you know what, I think that this is where I need to be. I think this is where I would find passion in driving digital transformation change through an organization, because I have this knack for connecting with people, and I also really do believe that digital transformation is the way that companies and businesses need to evolve and embrace that change so that they can stay competitive. And I just felt that that was a space for me to start to transition into.
Looking at your amazing career, what's one simple way listeners can start shifting their mindset today from a fixed perspective of uh, I can't do that to the growth mindset of how can I learn to do that?
Oh, I think it's just being intentional to do it. I really believe that we all do need to have a growth mindset. No matter what industry we're in, no matter what our current role is, um, the technology landscape and also just I would say macroeconomics requires us all to be that way. That's actually how you'll stay relevant, whether you do have a more technical role or whether you are in a leadership role. Really just committing to always being curious and saying, I'm never done growing, I have more to do, and maybe I don't do something yet, but I will. And just accepting the fact that we all have to grow all the time. You're never done learning, ever. Ever.
Uh, And speaking of growing, your story shows the real growth happens when we step out of our comfort zone. Can you tell us about a time early in your career when you felt truly nervous, and what's clear benefit or lesson you got from pushing through it?
Sure. You know, I would say early in my career, um, I felt that I had almost two things against me, so to speak. One was the a lot of the immediate team that I worked with were colleagues who were at least middle in their career, and so they had a tremendous amount of more working experience, technical experience than I did at that point. And so I always felt that I had to really make myself known, because I was viewed as, oh, she's young, she's just learning the ropes. The other thing was I was the only woman in my group, and in I would say in the structure of the organization that I was in, there was only three women within that organization. So we also, I mean, not only did I have to figure out again how not to be seen as always just this early career professional, but I also had to find my voice as the only woman in the room. And that can be intimidating. But that is something that I learned along the way that I had to do, and do quickly so that I was heard and that I was really considered to be a valuable voice of the team.
And when you took a big chance in your career that didn't go as planned, how did you make sure that mistake taught you something useful instead of becoming a permanent problem?
Uh, yeah, um, everything that we do, especially whether we're doing a stretch assignment or whether we've changed roles, um, nothing ever goes perfect, uh, and we shouldn't expect it to. By the way, right? We really shouldn't. We should expect that there's going to be a little bit of uncomfortableness and growth, because we were expected to do something different or do something above and beyond that what we've had to do before. Um, And so I think in my case, there was a period of time where I still had a technical role, but was also asked to do and lean more into project management. And that was a big change for me because I was accustomed to having a very technical role, very structured work. And now I'm asked to lead a project where, you know, I'm having to influence people. I'm having to deliver on milestones, and that was uncomfortable. What I recognized though was that not every project is going to hit the milestone when it's supposed to. What's important to know is that you are communicating that and that you're course correcting as quickly as what you can. And so there was one time where I did lead a project, and it wasn't going to plan, okay, for multiple factors. And so I do remember I went to my leadership at the time and saying, we're struggling here with this project and I need some help. And that leader at that time said, I want you to turn around, walk out of my office, and I want you to come back when you have some recommended solutions. And that was a key learning for me. Like it like a light bulb went off. I'm like, well, of course I should be coming to you with recommended solutions. So that was one of the things that I remember early on and that I've always applied going forward.
What is your favorite way to tackle a difficult problem? Do you have a simple step by step approach or a go to strategy you use for tough issues?
I would say, I have a my approach is both collaborative and structured. Okay, so I believe in bringing in folks from different I would say perspectives and aspects regarding whatever the problem is, right? So you could almost view it as bringing in people from different perspectives that are relevant to that problem. And then I would also start to break that problem down into smaller like components so that we can work through those, but then also again just tackling things. Typically if you can break things down into smaller components, you really can tackle the broader problem much more quicker. And so that is kind of the combination that I would use. So collaborative, yet break it down into smaller digestible chunks.
Eh, you promote micro networking. I know you have these uh, key takeaways. Can you explain it to me and to our audience?
Sure, sure. So yeah, why don't I just give you all the key takeaways to start? Because I have five of them, and I think they kind of really do walk through some areas that we want to keep going further into in this podcast. So the first is, again, I would say is embrace discomfort. Growth doesn't happen when you're in your comfort zone. It actually happens when you lean into the unknown. And too often I've seen other women, colleagues or friends that have held themselves back because they didn't feel that they were ready, or they assumed that because they felt uncomfortable, it meant it wasn't the right time for them. So I would just say that for me, discomfort has always been a signal that I'm evolving. So whether it's having to dive into a new technology, stepping into a role that I didn't feel prepared for, or presenting to senior leadership, that one always gets me too. But those moments of uncertainty have definitely helped me shape my career. So my advice for everyone is if you're in a place of growth and you're experiencing that discomfort, just lean into it and embrace it. And give yourself the permission to grow and the grace to enjoy the bumps along the way, because as I said before, nothing will be perfect. And now, like, second takeaway, so the micro networking. And here's a networking to some people can just feel overwhelming and exhausting. Okay. And many people, especially women, will say there's never enough hours in the day. because I have my job, and my job is taking 10 hours at least of my day, and I have too much work to do. And then outside of work, I have personal commitments, and there's just not enough time for networking. Oh, networking isn't just about big events or a significant personal commitment. Networking really, it's really a way for you to build authentic relationships. So I would recommend you to start small. And I call it micro networking, if you want to put a title to it. But this could be anything from a 15-minute coffee chat, maybe a quick LinkedIn message to someone that you follow, or a short conversation with a colleague right after a meeting. You can really take and use these low lift interactions to build trust, open doors maybe that you wouldn't know or wouldn't have seen before, without a huge time commitment or feeling overwhelming. And so when you do these micro networking sessions, have thoughtful questions and be prepared to actively listen. And if you approach networking as a way to learn, it's not just about connecting, right? So networking then becomes even more of a powerful enabler to you. So just again recommend start small and be intentional. And I'll give you an example here. So I had made it a point, after watching an executive presentation, to reach out to a colleague right after a meeting. She had done a phenomenal job. I was so impressed not only with the content that she delivered, but she really actually had a story to tell, which really made her presentation powerful. And at the very end of the meeting, I tapped her on the shoulder. I said, "Hey, do you have like 10 minutes?" And she was, of course, she was like, "Yes." And I said, number one, I gave her a lot of positive feedback on her presentation. And I asked her if she was willing to spend time with me to kind of share how she was doing her storytelling so that I could leverage that knowledge for future sessions. So there's a great way that, again, it's a very tangible thing to use, that micro networking, and it really can help you as you go forward. Third takeaway that I have for everyone is to seek stretch assignments proactively. Stretch assignments can be game changers for your career. They push you beyond your current skill set, and they help you discover what you're capable of. And stretch assignments actually do feel safer, from a comfortability perspective, because you stay in the role you're in, you're doing your job, but then you also have this ability to stretch yourself, and so it does feel safer than an entire role change. And please don't wait for someone to tap you on your shoulder or see that you've done good work and appoint you for a stretch assignment. You need to let your leadership know that you want that opportunity. And if you are vocal about it and let other leaders know, you will be able to find those opportunities for stretch assignments as well.
What is the difference between a stretch assignment that truly helps your career grow and that one that just leads to burnout? And how
Oh,
do you choose which one to say yes to?
so stretch assignments, the ones that, when I think about a stretch assignments have a beginning and an end. And so that you're doing your current role and that you're going to take on additional responsibility, and you're going to know that it's for a period of time. The other thing is that you need to make sure that that stretch assignment is going to help you build the capabilities that you're choosing to build, right? You should be having a development plan, knowing the things that you want to work on. And so that stretch assignment should be a period of time and should be directly linked to your professional development. And then that's when I would recommend it.
Okay, so what's the next one? Empowering uh, empower internal connectors. Can you explain to us?
Sure, absolutely. Every organization has people who naturally connect others. Um, the key here is to identify them and learn from them. And occasionally, there may be times where they might need support from you, so support them. Um, Sometimes these internal connectors, they often tend to like to work behind the scenes, like, oh, I know someone who can help us here, let me go reach out to that person and then I'll get back to you. But it's not just about connecting people, they actually have built influence, right? Because when they reach out to people, they tend to get the resource that they need. So these internal connectors do have cross-functional strengths that maybe perhaps some of those strengths you may not possess yet. So I would recommend, definitely making sure that you are building an authentic relationship with those connectors, because you really never know when they're going to need you or when you will need them. And I would just say that internal connectors tend to be people that I naturally connect to myself. I feel like I am one of those. But I do recognize that for some other people that, um, you know, always having to work with internal connectors, it may seem to them informal. Oh, or why don't we have a certain structure or process in place so we know who to go with? My recommendation is, clearly there should always be a structure that's followed, but a lot of times those internal connectors are really key. And my recommendation would be have at least one, and nurture that connection with them very well.
That's very nice. And uh, for leaders in our audience, how did they find those vital people in their teams who naturally help different departments work together?
I I tend to think that these people are known. Like I said, I feel like they are recognized. They're known, and usually, again, these are people who um, just naturally like to work cross functionally, like across different teams. And if you're finding trouble, or finding it troublesome to find an internal connector, first start with leadership, because usually the leadership knows who are some key people in their in their organization, that you could partner with and reach out to.
How do you show your true self as a leader in a demanding company like DuPont, especially when you have to lead a hard change that people might not like?
You need to be authentic.
Mhm.
You need to be able to feel confident enough that there are times where changes happen that aren't changes that any of us want to go through. But at the same time, as a leader, you need to get your team or your organization through it. And what I find is that it's just being authentic, and even sharing my own personal opinion. Like I admit, or I recognize that this is a tough time, or this is something that doesn't seem like it's going to be fun. But then getting your team through that change. But I think to start it, you have to be authentic, because if you're not, your team won't get behind you because they won't trust you.
And let's talk about your last uh, about own your development even with a gender load. Can you uh, talk about that?
Sure, sure. I mean, let's be real. Okay, women, we often carry the heaviest caregiving responsibilities. And that can really make career development and progression at some points actually feel almost impossible. You know, but here's the truth. Your development is your responsibility. So create a plan, communicate that plan, and execute it with intention. Sometimes that means that you are going to have to make sacrifices. Sometimes that means your partner or your family are going to need to support you, or your friends, right? And they might have to make some sacrifices to help you. But typically, when you share with your support network that that's what you want to do, they get behind you. and they want to help you see, help you grow. So um, I would also say, don't wait for your company to define your own development path. That is something that you have to own. And when you own that, you actually send, to your employer a powerful message that, I'm invested in my growth. Um, and I would just say that I personally chose a time when I even had probably the most family responsibilities outside of work, that I did pursue a higher education. That's when I got my graduate degree. I did that though, knowing that I needed to find something that was flexible to fit my lifestyle, but I was still going to go forward and do it. And so the timing matters of when you choose to do your development, but your ownership of that matters more. So don't forget to share, your development with your manager, and with, again, your support system outside. And I think if I could give any advice also in this space, would be, if you're seeking support from your employer in your development, show your leadership how that development will bring benefit back to the company. I've heard often, especially from IT colleagues, like, I keep going to my manager and I keep telling them that I want training, and I'm not seeing that opportunity. But they're also not linking how that training is going to bring value back to the company. And so make sure that you do that. That is actually exactly what I did when I pitched to my leadership at the time that I wanted to get my graduate degree. I actually presented to the head of our department and illustrated, how my getting a graduate degree would bring value back to the company, and it was a no-brainer. They were very supportive, but I do think that's a place where we tend to forget, especially early in our career. We may not even realize that we need to do that, but definitely linking that value back to the company is really important.
Speaking of career, you mentioned that women often handle a heavy caregiving load. What advice would you give to females to help their career or start an entrepreneurial journey?
Ah, so I think for this question, I'm going to break it into two parts because I think the journey looks a little bit different. I would say for anyone who's looking to grow their career, you own your career. You are the CEO of you. Don't, like I said before, don't wait for someone to tap you on the shoulder or see your potential. You take charge, set your own goals, and make sure your ambitions are known. And if there's a stretch assignment or a new challenge, okay, lean into it, right? You need to operate like you are the CEO of you. Um, and I think, again, we talked about development is your responsibility. So create a plan, communicate it, and execute it. Now, for those that are starting like an entrepreneurial journey, well, guess what? You already are the CEO, right? But my biggest advice here is to support other and network with other entrepreneurs. This may seem a bit provocative to some people, but honestly, it makes sense because you have you may have very similar challenges as other entrepreneurs, and there's a lot of commonality there, and you can actually help each other in ways, of course, that doesn't hurt your competitive advantage, right? And a lot of times you can, again, use micro networking here to connect with people, but I would really recommend that you seek networking opportunities for small businesses that can be local or remote. And I think you'll find that entrepreneurs do tend to kind of love to like support each other, and that'll foster win-wins for both of you.
What are the top three soft skills all career driven females, in your opinion, should have?
So soft skills are really essential skills. And if I had to narrow it down to three, I'd say the first one is definitely a growth mindset. That means always being open to learning, embracing challenges, and seeing any of the setbacks as opportunities to improve. The second would be adaptability. In IT, and one could also say really in any field, right? Things are constantly changing. And so having the ability to pivot, learn new skills, and stay resilient when things don't go as planned is absolutely essential. And then the third I would say is empowerment. And I don't really mean empowering of yourself, but actually lifting up others. So recognizing others that are, the connectors, the culture builders that are around you, support them, and don't be afraid to advocate for yourself or for your peers. And please never hold back from advocating from really good female leaders. That is a place where I think we could use some more empowerment in IT. When you empower others, you build a stronger network, and you really do have an overall more collaborative environment. So those three: growth mindset, adaptability, and empowerment, they're essential.
And I have a good, nice quote here from Carrie Fisher. It says, "Stay afraid, but do it anyway. What's important is the action. You don't have to wait to be confident. Just do it, and eventually the confidence will follow." That's right. And what one more from Abraham Maslow. One can choose to go back toward safety or forward toward growth. Growth must be chosen again and again. Fear must be overcome again and again. So that's a good quotations from today's episodes. And so, Carla, you deal with global teams. So, what is the most important things you've learned about leading people who come from many different countries and cultures?
I think it is just finding commonality. Um, you need to connect with your global team just as you would if you were in the office and having to have a water cooler chat. You have to connect with everyone on your team, and I do think that regardless of where we live and our backgrounds, we all have things in common. And I think it's really important to have that really intentional connection with your group, and really make it a point to be connected, even if it's virtual. I led several teams where no one was in the same location, but we had to operate as a highly functional team, or we weren't going to hit our responsibilities or our timelines. And so I really made it a point that we all connected, that we all had times to just get on the camera and talk and learn about each other, to really again have more of a relationship than just the work. And I think that is something that I've seen it work firsthand, and I don't think that would be anything that I would change.
This was- And AI is quickly changing the workplace. How are you and your teams dealing with these changes? And what is the one skill you think people need most to work with AI and not against it?
Oh, yeah. So I would say, currently right now, I'm actually leading a project for our organization, to accelerate AI fluency. And so we are launching a co-pilot adoption program, that will, again, it'll be targeted for the entire enterprise. And we are building this curriculum that's targeted based upon the different functional areas in the organization, so that the training is like tangible. But at the end of the day, it's all about empowering every team to drive personal productivity and impact. And I think that is something that by doing that, we can actually demystify some of the scariness that AI can make people feel, or like intimidated. I know we have a lot of folks that, if you're in IT, you're supporting a lot of folks who aren't in IT, and a lot of our folks don't, they do feel intimidated when using AI, but hopefully, we actually can enable them to experience some of the productivity boost so that it'll enable them to work smarter and free up their time for them to focus on the things that matter most instead of some of these mundane tasks that we have to handle.
Uh, we have here a question from Jane. It says, what do you believe is the biggest challenge the organization faces in supporting internal connectors and stretch opportunity?
Wow. That could really vary for every different organization that people work for. I think that if you have a supportive leadership team, let's just focus on them. They should be making sure that stretch assignments are something that is a part of what they do and enable. Um, and and if not, I would say we as employees need to make sure that we are being visible and vocal about what we want as stretch assignments. Because if we don't have a leadership team that sees that that is something that they should be doing, we as employees should be voicing that and saying, no, I do want a stretch assignment, and I do want something bigger than what I'm doing right now.
That's I hope Jane that answers your questions. So Carla, since technology changes so fast, how do you personally decide which new skills are worth spending a lot of time learning and which ones are just short-lived trends you can ignore?
So I kind of look at it as I am fascinated about technology. So I like to learn about a lot of things in this domain. And I've seen that, yes, there may be some things that are quicker in life than others, but there's still something to learn from it. So I just try to ensure that every week I am reading up on the latest technology and being aware of what is going on, because as an IT professional, that's what I should be doing. I should be learning. But I do find that I just block some time to do that. And I don't end up kind of, again, I would say going all over the place. I kind of want to just look at it broadly. But that's been my own personal way of handling all of the new changes going on and things that are happening in our space, because it is overwhelming, right? I mean, and you can't be an expert on everything. So it's good to kind of know generally where the industry is going, and then if there are a couple of key areas that you're really interested in, spend the time on it. You're not going to waste time, right? You're learning, you're growing. It's important to do.
Yes. And for the person who knows they're ready for a big promotion or change but is struggling with self-doubt, what is your most practical tip for getting rid of that inner voice of resistance?
Oh, it's the worst, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it's the worst. Go to the facts. If you really feel that you are up for a promotion, or and you feel that these are, it is your time, but you're too intimidated to have that talk. So my recommendation is go to the facts. What are the things that you have delivered on? What is the value that it's brought to the business? And that is those are the things that you can share with your leadership. Like, this is what I delivered on. Also, promotions mean you're going above and beyond, right? You may be doing more. So any stretch assignments that you may have had, you need to ensure that you're articulating that contribution as well. And, you know, we are our own worst enemies a lot of times. That's, I think, a lot of human nature. But I think if you revert back to the facts, the things that you have done, the things that you have done above and beyond, that should actually emotionally detach you, and that you will be able to have that confident conversation with your leadership on this is what I've delivered, this is what I have done, and this is where I've gone above and beyond. And I think that is what will set you up to make you feel confident. And if you still do that process, definitely do a dry run with a trusted partner. If you have a mentor or a trusted colleague, do a dry run, right? Make sure that you're, and listen to their feedback, right? So that'll also help you, get the butterflies out and make sure that like you're ready to go for that conversation, because you should be very confident when you go in to have a promotion discussion.
None of us are able to achieve success without some help along the way. Is there a particular person who you are grateful towards who helped to get where you are? Can you share a story about that?
Sure. And by the way, that is so true. Um, we never really get anywhere all on our own. Um, I would have to say that if I had to pick just one person I'm deeply grateful for, it would be Linda Roleka. She was a former leader that I had the privilege to work for. And, Linda was the kind of leader who saw my potential before I did. And at the point in time that I'm referring to, I was in a very, very technical role. So I was racking servers, putting memory into servers, was working in the data center. Like, definitely, I was just very deeply technical. And technology was my identity, I would say, at that time. But what I didn't realize also was that Linda was seeing something different. And she noticed my ability to deliver on projects, influence that I had on cross-functional teams. That's meaning like driving projects without people directly reporting to me. And one day she told me, she was like, Carla, project management is in your future. And then to make it even, I guess, more solidified, she actually told me my role was going to change. She was changing my role into project management. And honestly, at that time, I was terrified. I couldn't imagine stepping away from technical work at that point, and then kind of going into something that, yes, I knew I had the experience of project management, but that technical work was my safety zone, right? I would say though that I trusted Linda because I had worked for her for a good period of time, and so I took the leap. And in doing so, I would say that really changed a lot of things for me in my career from that point forward. She supported me in in a lot of the education that I got, formal education that I got, and her belief in me and her willingness to invest in my growth was really a game changer. And that career transition from technical into project management, which then led into leadership, you know, I don't think I could have ever imagined that I'd be where I am without her support. I mean, she really did not just change my role; she changed my trajectory.
Oh, that's very nice. And you mentioned that you work on the working about co-pilot, but do you have any new exciting projects as well? Mhm.
Sure. So another exciting project that's going to kind of tail dove off of the Copilot is we are launching a brand new intranet. And right now our intranet is what I would say just very dated, and it's not engaging at all for our employees. And so we're going to be launching mid next year a new intranet site. So it's going to hopefully get employees quick access to tools that they may now need to take multiple clicks and efforts to get to, but hopefully it will quick up some of those things for them, and also give an opportunity to just really have an engaging community for the employees. And so that is another really exciting program that we're excited to get going for next year.
That's very nice, and a good luck to your future projects, Carla. And let me ask you, Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "Women are like tea bags. We don't know our true strength until we are in hot water." In life, how are you in hot water, Carla? How are you brewing?
Well, right now I do feel like I'm a bit in hot water because I recently did change jobs. So I do currently work for Insight, and I've been here for 5 months. And so I am learning an entirely new industry, new people, and delivering on new technology initiatives. So I do feel like I'm brewing here, but I definitely know that brewing isn't bad. It's not a negative thing. We just need to make sure that we are finding our rhythm, while that water is bubbling. And I think that for me, I discover my true strength, not when things are easy, but when we are bubbling, so to speak, or boiling. And I also have, I think, a secret ingredient here, which is laughter. You gotta find laughter even in the times of brewing, because we do deserve to have a bit of joy and fun in our jobs, and I think it just makes everything a lot easier to get through, and again, it also kind of opens your mind to other opportunities.
What is the number one book you can sit and think, oh, I wish I read before I started my career?
I wish Mel Robbins had her Let Them book available early in my career. Um, I That book has just so many lessons in it, that I could have used. Um, you know, when you're early in your career, if someone, you're facing a lot of self doubt, and what that book teaches you is that if someone does doubt you, let them doubt you. Um, if someone doesn't support your growth, let them. Focus on what you can control, which is your actions, your own mindset, and your own journey. And early in my career, I really did internalize too much of what others thought of me. And I could have really have benefited from this book at that time. Um, I also, you can also use this book outside of work. Okay, so it is definitely something that I wish I had read early on in my career. Um, if you shed trying to change others, or again really engulf yourself or worry about too much of again what others think, you're actually giving your power away. Mel does talk about that in the book. So believe me, you all have plenty of friends outside of work. You don't need to be friends with everyone. um, and so let them be who they are, but let you be who you are, and that is by owning your actions, your mindset, and owning your journey.
Let Them by Mel Robbins. I think it's a new book, right? Or
It is.
the green
It is
one.
a new book, but like, oh my goodness, it's such a game changer. That's why I wish I had that early in my career. And again, you can use it at any point in
Yes.
your career and even outside of your job. So it's a great book.
Oh, I look at it. I will look to that. So, let's imagine that you could meet anyone in the world for a private breakfast. Who would it be, and where would you choose to meet?
Oh. So I would definitely choose to meet with Simon Sinek. Um, his perspective on leadership and purpose has always resonated with me. And when I was at DuPont, we actually had Simon come talk at one of our internal conferences. And between that talk and his TED Talks and his other talks that he posts, honestly, I could just go to some coffee shop with him and really dive into a conversation on storytelling, um, and how he's educated leaders to use stories to inspire and connect. Um, I would use that opportunity or that private breakfast, so to speak, um, really because this is an area that I'm passionate about, but also need to continue to develop my own capabilities in. So I would use it as an opportunity to get a lot of pointers from him.
And lastly, can you uh, give us your favorite life lesson quote?
Yeah. So my favorite life lesson quote is very simple, okay? But it is, you got this. I use it all the time. I've used it to encourage my team, my peers, and even my leaders. Whenever someone's kind of facing something that they think is hard or difficult, and that they are maybe getting stretched outside their comfort zone, I've always reminded them, you got this. It's simple, but it's powerful. Um, I've I've seen firsthand, just hearing those words can give someone like the confidence to take on a new challenge, to speak up in a meeting, or try something they've never done before. So it's a reminder we're all capable of more than what we think, and especially when we lean into discomfort and growth. So to anyone listening today, whatever you're facing now, just remember, you got this.
You got this. And that's it from 198 of the PhD live stream. Thanks to our guest, Carla Pantano. Thank you so much. And your words are really insightful. And to stay updated and ensure you never miss a positivity hack delivered, follow Women on IT and turn on notifications to be alerted once the video has been released. And next week, we will be joined by a young author, Shanti Hershenson. Hershenson. Stories Beyond Her Years, the rise of a Gen Z author. And also thank you for our fabulous team, Jane, Racy, and Natalie. And as always, our positivity quote comes from positive thinking only and goes look for something positive in each day. Even if some days you have to look a little harder. Today is your day. Hack the future. Hack the positivity you want. Thank you.